Live from New York and North Carolina, it's Wednesday morning. Let's talk about Saturday night. Ladies and gentlemen, a brand new episode of Two Peas on a Podcast is here. Gerald is here with you, and over on the other side is my key grip. Nicholas, how are you, buddy? Welcome to the program once again. Yeah. Force applause.
I forgot how loud this sound clip is. It goes on.
And it's really long, too. It's really long.
Still going.
Yeah, no, it goes on for a while. They didn't turn the light off yet.
You got to just keep going. What's up, baby?
It goes
What's
on
up?
for a while. Yeah.
How's it going?
I'm good, brother. Happy to be back with you. We're talking about Jason Reitman's Saturday Night, a movie that I just caught today, actually. I saw it this morning. I think you saw it today as well. So fresh in our mind. Jason Reitman's an interesting filmmaker. I don't know that he really has a distinctive style necessarily, and I feel like this one is pretty different. Looks different than a lot of his other films. Popular. Most recently, he did Ghostbusters Afterlife, which wasn't the greatest Ghostbusters in my opinion. It was okay, but and then he's also done. Yeah, I mean, whatever. What do you think of Afterlife? Just say it.
People call me a hater.
I mean, it was like a 6 out of 10. Is that fair?
No, it was not. Ghostbusters Afterlife was great. It was great.
Come on, dude. It was like
a Lego sequel. It was a Lego sequel done right. It didn't bring in the original characters until like the very end of the movie.
What?
Like it hit a few of the same plot beats, but you know what?
Come on. I want old Nick back with the
familiar but new.
I can't do this right now.
Familiar but new.
This is strange to me. I can't do this right now. Also, Juno, Young Adults. What else did he do? Tully.
Up in the
guy's
Air.
Got Up in the Air, which I also enjoyed with Clooney.
Up in the Air is probably top 10 all time for me. Like I adore that movie. That movie's so good.
That's a good one. So this one's a little bit different for him, but it tells the story of the 90 minutes leading up to the very first broadcast of Saturday Night Live back in October of 1975, and it's kind of like shot as a real time. It's happening right there in front of you, and we'll kind of get into the review tonight when we talk about Saturday Night. However, Nick, before we get there for the main review this evening, as I've been mentioning the last couple weeks on the show, we are going to let the patrons pick 2 movies for us to end October this year. And of course, as you can see behind me if you're on YouTube, I am a horror guy. I don't know if Nick has told you that or if you've heard that, but I'm a horror guy. Nick kind of historically does not like horror. I mean, there's some stuff that I'm sure he enjoys, but generally speaking, he's not seeking out the genre. But it's Halloween, man. It's Halloween. It's the spooky season, dude. I mean, you got to get with it. You're on 2 Ps here in October. So what are we going to do? We're going to let our patrons pick 2 movies for us to watch, and we will review them right here on the show on the main feed. The first one will be next week, and then the following week to round out the month of October, we will do the second one. We're going to spin them right now. Now, look, here's what's interesting. I'm going to do, Nick, I did this little, Dan can take all this out. He's a professional, but we did this little screen share here.
Goodness gracious, that's a lot of movies. I have not seen this list at all.
You know, I hadn't seen most of them until producer Dan got in here and helped me put them in the little wheel earlier
thank you,
tonight.
Dan.
But yeah, thank you for your work on the episode, Dan, as always. But 46 movies were pitched to us from our patrons. Guys, by the way, if you want to get involved and pick movies for the roulette wheel, we don't just do it for spooky season. We do it throughout the year. Whenever we don't make it out to the theater, we want to watch something and review it on the show. Our patrons.
What the hell is Frankenhooker?
Brother.
I kind of want to watch that just because of the name of it. That just sounds like trash horror, which I would probably unironically love.
Frankenhooker got thrown to us by Justin Winters. We'll see how that lands on the
Of
wheel
course it did.
So I said 46, but I can't read. It's 43 entries, but we got 43 movies to spin here. We're going to do 2 spins, and we're going to see what movies we're going to be covering. Nick, are you ready, brother? Let's see what we got here.
I'm not ready, but spin it anyway.
1, 2, 3. Here she goes. And first movie is going to be... What in the fucking shit is this?
Things Will Be Different by... Is that Brad Hargis? Is that what
Hargis.
God
Brad
help us.
Hargis.
Oh, no.
Brad Hargis. A movie called... I got to look these up. Dan, you're going to have a lot of editing to do here in the front, brother.
No.
Let me look this up here. Things Will Be Different. I've never heard of this one. Things Will Be Different.
That's because it's a movie only Brad has seen. It probably is filmed behind a 7-Eleven somewhere.
how do we even watch this, Brad? It's a new film that's not available to stream, apparently. Well, hold on a second. Maybe it. Yeah, you can't stream it. You have to rent it. So I'm going to make Brad give me an extra $7 this month on Patreon.
He's gonna up. He's gonna up that Patreon pledge just
Good
this month to
Lord,
get us
man.
to watch this one.
Things will be different. In order to escape the police after a robbery, two estranged siblings lay low in a metaphysical farmhouse that hides them away in a different time. I'm mad at Brad at this point. I don't know. Are you upset with Brad? I'm upset with Brad currently.
That just sounds. That doesn't sound horror. That doesn't sound horror at all.
Things will be different. I'm going to make Brad send you $7, and he'll send me $7, and then we'll watch it. All right.
Brad's
so let's see
got
what we
like
get.
20. Shout out to Brad Hargis, by the way, for giving me a digital code for the #1 movie of the year, Twisters. Thank you, Brad. Love you.
Oh, wow. Hey, there you go, Brad. I thought you were going to say Horizon, and I was going to say they put out codes for that.
Wow. I mean, they probably just give
One
them away.
code.
You go to your local Walmart and buy anything, and they just give them away at the cash register.
So next week we'll be covering, it's a new movie though, so that's cool. But next week we'll be covering 2024's Things Will Be Different, a movie that I had not heard about until right at this moment as we're sitting here. Let's see what the follow-up movie is going to be as we give this wheel another spin.
Take it off the wheel first. Take it off the wheel first.
We should ask you though, if it lands on Brad again, should we pick somebody else so we're spreading the love a little bit?
I guess it depends on. I guess we'll make that decision depending on what it lands on. Maybe.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, there she goes. There she goes. Next up will be from Jason, a movie called Luz or Lose. I have not heard of these.
This was right next to the one Brad picked in the wheel before, so I just think this wheel just always stops in the same place. And since we took Brad's movie out, now it just landed on this one.
It would have been his movie again. Luz, a young cab driver, drags herself into the brightly lit entrance of a rundown police station. A demonic entity follows her, determined to finally be close to the woman it loves. It's on Shudder.
I get horror. I guess demonic entity. I get horror vibes from that at least.
And that's from 2018. And I don't know if it's called Luz or Luz. What do you think? Luz. I don't know. I got to look that up. I don't even know how to pronounce this. But hey, it's 70 minutes long, so let's give Jason a round of applause.
Shout out Jason. Yeah, let's go.
70 minutes. I
almost hit the applause thing again, but no, we can't. We can't do that again. That was.
We don't
I feel like
have
it's
time.
still playing now.
Oh my God! All right, let me stop sharing that. All right, here we go. Well, Lose, I think Lose or Luz from 2018, and Things Will Be Different. Those will be 2 horror movies that we will be covering at the end of this month, selected by our patrons. So there you go. Thank you guys for all these suggestions that we got. Like I said, 43 movies. That was just great to get all that.
Winners.
Feedback.
I was rooting for Frankenhooker, buddy. I'm sorry. As soon as I saw that name, I was like, that just sounds interesting to me.
It would have been good. It would have been good.
Like one breast from one woman and one breast from another woman. Is that like?
We can do Frankenhooker at a later date. I mean, I love that movie. 80s
I bet you do Frankenhooker.
80s cheese fest over there, Frankenhooker. All right, so thank you guys. Thank you, patrons, and thank you for all the submissions for the October roulette picks there, and we will get on those watches, although I don't know how the hell we're going to watch Things Will Be Different. I guess we got to pay for it.
You said we can rent it. How do you think I watch most of these movies anyway?
I mean, I can't afford to be doing that. I got to call Brad at home later and talk to him about these picks.
Good Lord. Speaking of renting movies, Gerald,
yes.
I actually wanted to bring something up here before we get into our review here. I gotta ask you a little something there, Gerald.
You gotta ask yourself a question.
I have a lot of questions. Number 1, how dare you?
I was going to tell you to play the sound drop. So
don't you dare. Now, my one big question for you, Gerald, is why don't I get to watch good movies for this show? That's my question for you, because let me fill this in here.
Is this going to have multiple parts to this question, or can I answer that question?
Let me fill this in here. Okay, I got to fill this in here because because one of your favorite movies of the year
Yeah.
is a movie called Thelma,
Oh yeah, I love that.
which
one. I
has
saw that
June
you
Squibb
checked that
as
in this week.
a grandmother who
Yeah.
somebody cons her, so she goes on a mission with Richard Roundtree on a scooter.
Good shit.
To go get her money back, and
Good stuff.
I honest to God, I really loved it. It was really good. I give
Yeah.
it like an 8, man. It's really, really good. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, why didn't we review this really good movie on the show? Instead, you got me watching garbage like Dune and Joker, Foila de Doo and Beetlejuice 2 Electric Boogaloo. Like, I just wanted to give you
Man.
some shit for that. But I did want to
No,
tell you, I did really love Thelma. I really, honest to God, I really did love it. It's really,
too.
really great. It's such a cute, like, quiet little movie. You know, it's there's nothing like really wild or crazy or anything like that about it. Richard Roundtree and June Squibb are great. Like, the
No, it's
family's
cute. I
great.
love
Parker Posey can still get it. You know,
So good.
it was real good, real good. Definitely worth checking out.
I agree.
But,
It's one of my favorite movies of the year too thus far. I'm trying to remember, but I feel like that wasn't in your market when it was in theaters.
It might not have been.
I saw it on streaming. I actually don't even think it was here. I don't think I could have seen it.
It was
either. I
meant
think
to be more one big rhetorical question, Gerald. I don't need
Yeah.
you to answer it. I just felt like giving you shit.
Well, it's
'cause
okay.
I watched the movie
you know
we
what it
didn't
is?
cover for the show and loved it, but all these movies you make me watch for the show is like
Yeah.
garbage.
Well, you know what it is. It's strategic on my part because
Was that what it is?
as the showrunner, if you will, because when you gave Dune 2 a 5 or whatever it was, I've just been punishing you ever since.
Is that what it is?
Nick will
Still-
hate this one. Let's
Still
cover it
paying,
next week.
still paying my penance for
my
hating
God.
Dune and Dune 2.
Well, before we bury the lead a little bit on our thoughts on Saturday night and get into that, I was very excited to see this movie. Basically, my whole life, I've been a fan of Saturday Night Live. I wasn't old enough. I was born in '75, so I wasn't really around during this era of Saturday Night Live that's covered in the movie. But even up until today, I love watching episodes of SNL. So I was very excited to see this, and we've already talked a little bit about Jason Reitman's eclectic filmography. So let's see what we thought about this film, man. Let's see if it lived up to the hype, at least for me. It has been getting awards buzz as well. We'll talk a little bit about maybe the possibilities of Oscar nominations and stuff like that as we get into our discussion. We start out every episode by giving our scores out of 10. Nick and I have not discussed it with each other yet, and then we will talk about how we arrived at that number. It's what we call the early score reveal, Nick.
Damn it, this always happens. I think I'm gonna score and then I never score. It's not fair.
All righty. You want to count us in, buddy, and we'll get it going here?
All right, let's do it. Let's do 3, 2, 1.
I want you to go first. So close. I almost gave it a 7. God, we would have matched up. Can I change mine?
No, you can't. You just held
right.
up the 8. You can't change
Well,
it
tell
now.
people what you got. We're on audio, too. So he's got a 7 over
You
there.
you just said 7.
You say it. You say it.
God in heaven. Of
Yeah.
3 plus 4.
Wait,
2 plus
what?
5. 6 plus 1.
All right, so
I'm
he's got a
I'm
7.
throwing
I've
math
got
at
an
him. I'm
8.
trying to scare him, folks.
8 from me, 7 from Nick. 7.5 overall. God damn, that math is getting quippy, isn't it? Really quick on the math lately. Saturday night, man. Jason Reitman, he's doing his thing here. So we have this is spoiler free for a few minutes here, and then we'll let you know when we get into spoilers. But we have a real-time kind of retelling of the 90 minutes leading up to the first broadcast of SNL. All the hijinks that are going on backstage, various things going on with a lot of the actors, which are household names. We were just talking about Afterlife a minute ago, but Dan Aykroyd, obviously, Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, Lorne Michaels, of course, who is still around producing the show as we're sitting here. I love the young cast, the vibrancy of the filmmaking, and it was just a very energetic watch for me. Like, I was just kind of into it the whole time. It was really no lull because it did kind of keep that kind of, we're about to go live, we're about to go on the air, and it kept that kind of frantic pace throughout the movie, which I really appreciated, and it really kept me invested in the film. There weren't a lot of quote-unquote bathroom break moments during this movie because you felt like you'd missed something.
Yeah.
So it was a really enjoyable watch for me. I don't know that it was super deep and had a lot of substance to it necessarily, but it was just a lot of fun. Like, I just really enjoyed it, and there's a lot of performances that we'll dive deeper into that I really enjoyed too when we get into the spoiler side. Nick, why did it work for you, man? A 7's a great score from you.
I honestly, I just really love the energy of it. Like you talked earlier about being a huge fan of Saturday Night Live. I don't think I've ever actually watched an entire episode of Saturday Night Live in my entire life. I mean, everybody has their skits they love from SNL, right? Like I love Celebrity Jeopardy. I love Matt Foley and anything Phil Hartman literally ever touched ever, because the man was absolute, solid gold. Even like the current stuff with Colin and Michael, the really offensive jokes that they write for each other and stuff. Like, it's always had like skits that I've really enjoyed, but I don't think I've ever really sat down and watched an entire episode of it. So it's much more of a foreign thing to me. So like going into it, I'm sure there's a lot more that somebody who's a really, really big SNL person would get out of it than I did. But that said, I really, really enjoyed the just kind of overall energy of it. The whole time I'm watching this movie, and I think it's interesting this is getting awards buzz, because I wouldn't know for who outside of Reitman himself, maybe editing as well, because this thing keeps moving. And I mean, you know how long it's going to be, because it's literally retelling like a 90-minute period of time. Right. So exactly how long it's going to get. But I kept thinking the entire time, I'm like, this is like Controlled Chaos, the movie. It's like so much is going on literally at all times. Think about how many different things are going on in any of the different scenes. I feel like this is a movie that would really reward rewatches as well, so you could just see different ideas of things that are going on in the background. And I really, really love the energy of it. I think the great thing about it is, despite that, like with everything that's going on, with all the chaos and craziness and everything like that going on, you still are able to follow that complete through line of all the different things that are going on, all the different elements that you're introducing. I think even as somebody like me who's not familiar with Saturday Night Live in the way somebody else might be, like I didn't have any problem following along with this, despite how hectic and frantic it is. And I think that's really, really to its credit. I think that it gives the audience so much of that just on its own, because it knows that not everybody that watches this is going to be somebody who's really, really up to snuff on their SNL trivia facts and whatever. I don't know how true to life it was or not. I don't know. Maybe and maybe we can get into that or whatever when we get there. But yeah, it was good. It's a good, like it never lags. It never gets boring. The energy in it never dips. It's always literally like so frantic. And in those few moments when it does get like the slightest bit quieter, you feel the tension of good movies.
Let's get back to work.
Good movies do this, where even though it's true to life, it's based on real events. And it's Saturday Night Live. It's been around for 50 years now. Like, they're going to make it to air. And it's, what obviously the story of Saturday Night Live is to come after this movie. But it's still able to bring a little bit of a feeling of tension out of you as an audience member, even knowing with all the chaos that's been going on, is all this still going to come together? Is all this still going to work? I think when you can know the answer to that, I think that's magical. I think that there's a real magic to that. This is one of the things I love the most about Argo. We're putting together our Rushmore later in the show for films set on movie sets or films. I don't even know. Are we dialing at that? Yeah. Whatever. Either way.
Yeah, on the set films.
I saw Argo looking through like different films of that ilk, and Argo's a film that does that too. Like, you already know how the real life events played out, but it's still able to ratchet up the tension really, really well. I think that's this movie's credit. I think it's really great.
I agree. Well, let's get into spoilers, and let's just talk about whatever we want to talk about. Dan's going to run a promo break, and when we come back, guys, we will be going spoiler heavy on Saturday night. Stick around. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about Jason Reitman's Saturday Night, a movie that Nick and I both praise here. 7 from him and 8 from me. I want to talk about the performances a little bit too, Nick. One thing I wanted to say to kind of piggyback on what you were saying before the break there, and I didn't want to kind of get off onto spoiler territory, but it's also kind of hard to really spoil it because this is all known fact, especially if you follow SNL or popular culture from the 70s or whatever. But one thing I wanted to say that was kind of on my mind the whole time I was watching it was that I was glad that somebody was doing this as a film because of how revolutionary Saturday Night Live was and is, because it's people don't like, we take things for granted now, or even in the 80s and 90s. Like when I was really into SNL was really in the 90s when I was in like high school and college,
Right.
The Chris Farley days, like you mentioned, Adam Sandler, David Spade, like that was when I really, really like dove in and even watched older ones after that too, like Eddie Murphy and stuff. But we take that stuff for granted, and it's like, if you stop and look at it through that lens of like when it's happening, and there's a couple moments in the film that Reitman really relishes that, where he has the cast kind of like all themselves kind of mesmerized as it's happening. And there's that one scene where they're watching Andy Kaufman's now infamous, performance that he does to the Mighty Mouse theme, which is, one of the greatest things that's ever happened comedically in the history books. And you're seeing it for the very first time, and you get to see it like through that lens of the real time when it happened. And there's just something special about that when a movie can place you into that historical moment. And Saturday Night Live, whether you're a fan of it or not, I don't think anybody would argue that it's one of the more important like TV shows to ever come along because of how different it was and how many things are spawned from it. I mean, anything that has any kind of sketch comedy facade, woven into it would probably not be a hit without a show like Saturday Night Live kind of kicking it off. Did you kind of feel that gravity historically in this film? Did you see it? I guess my question is like, did you see it more of like an entertainment piece, or did you see it more of like capturing the history of this revolutionary show? Because that kind of sat with me the whole viewing.
No, I really viewed it more as just an entertainment piece. I didn't view it as anything more than that. Like I said, SNL doesn't.
I wonder if that's because of the connection to the show itself.
I would think so. I mean, like I said, SNL's been around for 50 years. Literally everybody knows what it is. Probably everybody, even if you're not a fan of SNL at all, you probably still have a favorite skit or some favorite character or some favorite whatever from whatever different era of SNL. I mean, they talk about it in the scene here, but they kind of like plant the seeds of the Dan Aykroyd Julia Child bit. That's like one of the really, really classic bits from SNL where he's Julia Child and he accidentally cuts his hand and there's blood spraying everywhere. That's like so funny.
And they're setting that up, yeah.
But like I said, I mean, like there's skits and there's things like that I've really, really enjoyed, but I don't have any kind of devotion or dedication whatsoever to the show itself. So
you were talking about Yeah, I get it. You were talking about the authenticity too, and not really knowing how authentic it was or not, which frankly I don't either really.
Yeah, but I have no idea.
One thing that I felt like they kind of leaned into pretty heavily in this depiction was kind of the personality of Chevy Chase, because he was very much the newcomer that was rising really rapidly and was hot shit, but was kind of an asshole who thought he was hot shit and was kind of flaunting his gravitas and his, kind of reputation, and was kind of living off that, and was kind of mean to everybody else, or seemingly was kind of mean to everybody else on the set, but also weirdly had a camaraderie with some of them, like Dan Aykroyd and everything else. And I know that that's been something that I've heard kind of whispers of in popular culture, even when he was on Community, that he was kind of not the best to work with on set. And I could see they kind of leaned into that a little bit in this movie too, which then makes me go, well, maybe that is true. Like, maybe that is kind of how he was as a person. But using that as a jump board to kind of talk about the performances, what really stuck out with you performance-wise? Because I thought this was a great young cast that really bounced off of each other really, really well. But there were a few standouts for me. What about you?
I mean, I loved Lamorne Morris as Garrett Morris. I love him anyway. He's amazing from New Girl and everything. So yeah, absolutely great. Loved him. I mean, Rachel Sennott is in this as well. We of course
marry me.
We stand Rachel Sennott on this show big time.
Much. Yes.
Yeah, she's really, really good in this. I really loved. Dylan O'Brien was great as Aykroyd. I mean, obviously he doesn't have that iconic Aykroyd voice. Like Aykroyd just has a very, very unique, specific voice.
He did a pretty good job, though. I thought,
but he nailed the mannerisms, I think, and the inflections of the speaking patterns and things like that, which I really, really loved. I thought that was really, really great as well. I really loved. I mean, Matt Wood as John Belushi, I also thought was really, really good.
Yeah,
I really
he did
loved,
good too. I agree.
I really loved him. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, such an
none of
iconic role to take on.
And I would also say Ella Hunt as Gilda Radner too. Gilda Radner
She did a
was
good job
so
with the First
funny.
Nation. Yeah, for sure.
She was so funny. So yeah, I really enjoyed that too.
Now the two I guess co-leads kind of in this movie are Gabriel LaBelle, Sammy Fableman from the Fablemans. I always call him Sammy Fableman, even though that's not even close to being his name. But he plays Lorne Michaels in the film. And then Cooper Hoffman, who's Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who was in Licorice Pizza a couple years ago. And he plays Dick Ebersol, which was like the head of NBC for decades. And I guess they were friends in real life when SNL was kind of getting started. And, Cooper Hoffman's the head of the network, or the head of this line of production of the network. And then Gabriel LaBelle is coming in to do SNL. Those two performances, I don't know, man. The casting of Gabriel LaBelle threw me a little bit because I do really like him. But he's kind of like that babyface young. I don't know. It just took me a second to connect to him as Lorne Michaels. But I wanted to ask but I thought the two of them together were phenomenal. Like that scene in the stairwell that they have. And, Dick's telling him, look, dude, they don't want this to work. They want you to put the show on and it's going to fail. They're going to cancel it. This is what's going to happen. And Lorne Michaels has just got that determination, okay, well, let's see what happens then, and he just kind of goes through with it. So those types of scenes that they shared together I thought were electric. But how did you feel about the two kind of lead performances there? How did you feel about Gabriel LaBelle, really, as Lorne Michaels?
He's good.
Yeah,
he's good. I'm zero notes. I don't know. It's really, really weird because I think I talked about it last week, how important character is to me in movies. This isn't really a movie about its characters. It's really more about the event itself, about the kind of launching of Saturday Night Live, about Saturday Night Live kind of becoming the cultural juggernaut and that success story and everything. I mean, obviously you get sketches of, like we talked about, Dylan O'Brien as young Dan Aykroyd, all these people playing people in real life that we've all seen and that we've all are so familiar with. But this isn't really a performance film. This isn't a film that's all about, nobody in this film is getting acting nominations is I guess, if you want to look at this through an awards lens.
That's kind of why I was asking about Gabriel LaBelle.
Yeah, I don't think he gives a bad performance. I don't think anybody in this film gives a bad performance, but this is not a character piece. This is not a character film. It's not a character piece about Lorne Michaels. I mean, obviously, his character is kind of the centerpiece of it because he's obviously the guy behind it all. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody was bad in the film. I do think that their scenes together are the strongest scenes together. When you get those two different characters together, the kind of back and forth, when they're going back and forth about the Polaroid and everything, about them wanting to have the Polaroid and have the cast on the air talking about it to kind of draw ad revenue and all those kinds of different things. They have really, really great chemistry. They have really, really great scenes together. Yeah, I don't think there was a bad performance in this entire thing. I really don't.
There was a couple of little bit parts, too, that were just awesome to see. J.K. Simmons popping up as Milton Berle, kind of the creepy old man, talking about his penis size and hitting all the 20-year-old actresses. And Willem Dafoe, obviously, plays one of the big wigs from L.A. that came in to kind of oversee the production.
Yep.
Kind of a villain, but also you kind of like him at the same time, which Willem Dafoe has a knack for kind of doing that.
Just like Willem Dafoe, that's what it is.
Yeah, you do.
I wanna think this smarmy studio head guy is a dick or whatever, but it's also Willem Dafoe, and it's I love him.
They had some pretty iconic characters. George Carlin, who was the host of the first episode, is portrayed in this.
But yeah, who played? This cast is so
Matthew
huge.
Rhys.
I apologize for going through the cast list here, trying to find all these different names of all these different people. This is
Matthew
such
Rhys
a huge
played,
cast.
George Carlin. Yeah,
Matthew
it's a big
Rhys
cast.
is really, really good as Carlin as well. He's really, really good. Whoever played Jim Henson was really good too.
Yeah, and he also played Andy Kaufman. That was the same actor.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, what was his name?
I don't think I've ever. I don't know anything. I've always heard people talk about Andy Kaufman. I don't know literally a thing about Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, he's great, man. He's one of the.
Yeah.
It was Nicholas Braun played Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson.
Oh, okay, yeah. He was really good. He was really, really good as Jim Henson. I really loved him as
agree.
Henson.
I agree. One thing that's interesting about we're talking about the performance and stuff. I think you nailed it. Where it's not really about any one performance, and there's even a line in the movie where one of the reporters or whatever that's covering it's like, "How do you feel about being a part of the ensemble?" And Chevy Chase is like, "Oh, this is an ensemble," doing his whole asshole shtick. But like, this is an ensemble cast. Like, I don't think there's not any like one person that's like, "Oh, that's the spotlight person. That's the one that's carrying this movie." They definitely all work really well together, and I feel like the movie definitely had a sense of what it is, which is that it's a frantic run up to showtime. And, I've only been backstage as like a bystander. I've never been working backstage or anything like that. Or if anybody has, then they will obviously know how accurate this is, but it just has that feeling of like tension and being able to pull the show off on time and, having to work with each other. And I mean, there's even moments in this movie where I don't know if it was a stretch for movie reasons, but like Lauren decides what skits are going to go into the show 3 minutes before they go to air. He comes out into the hallway and changes the Post-it notes or whatever. And he's like, "Okay, that's our show." And it's like 3 minutes before they went to air. Now, that may have been dramatized a little bit, I would think. That may have been cutting it a little too close. But my point is that it always held your attention. Like, you were always, and like you said, that's really a feat because we know that it aired. You know what I mean? We know that it's a success, but you're still like, "Oh my God, are they going to pull it off?" So it's a really cool thing when a filmmaker can do that. Like, we know the Titanic sank. Like, we know that. But Jim Cameron, when he made that movie, you're still like on the edge of your seat. Oh my God, like, how are they going to get it? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's very similar in that way. So I think it's a great movie. When it comes to award stuff, I don't know, man. I don't think you're going to get any of the performances are going to be heavy or hefty enough to get into any kind of performance category.
No.
I could see maybe the slightest hint of somebody like Cooper Hoffman for supporting. Maybe just because of the legacy of his family and like, I don't know, but I thought he was really, really good in this movie as Dick.
I don't think any of the roles are prominent enough to where like you're going to see a lot meatier performances, especially we get down the stretch in award season and stuff. You're going to see a lot meatier performances in there that just that are going to take up all those spots. I don't think there's anybody here that's standout-ish enough where that's going to.
What about movie and director though? Maybe. I
could see it being in the conversation for movie. I don't see Reitman in the conversation for winning director. I see him in the conversation for maybe being up there. Because like I said, the thing that I really, really love about this movie is how it manages to maintain that energetic pace for literally 100+ minutes, however long what is it, 100 hour 48, I think is the runtime or something like that. It really does manage to keep that energy and that pace literally the whole way through the show. And I think that's really, really great. And I think that there's a liveliness to it that I'm really struggling to describe, to be 100% honest, but there's this liveliness to it that it makes it impossible to look away from. And me, as somebody who really loves film and loves analyzing film the way I do, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm just like, how the hell do you keep track of all this? How the hell do you, every scene, think about any scene in this movie. That's why I said I think repeat viewings would probably be really rewarding on this. Now, will I ever watch this again? I couldn't say I would deliberately like go out of my way to watch it again, but I think there's so much going on. It makes me ask the question in my mind of like, how do they do that? Like, I don't often watch movies and think, how did they do that? But I constantly was thinking that during this movie. It's like, how the hell is a director, and that's why I have so much respect for the profession of directing, is like, how the hell do you keep track of all that stuff going on all at the same time, all these different elements that are, I mean, obviously it's a huge team of people behind the scenes, I know that, but like, obviously, like, how do you keep track of all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes, all the different characters, all the different people running around back and forth, all the different people in character, like, running around, all these little side bits going off to the side, like over here in the corner of the screen, here's this thing where you're over here doing this, and maybe not everybody's going to see it the first time through. I just think that takes an incredible kind of attention to detail, I think, that is impeccable. And I think even if he doesn't get any awards love for it, here's what I really think is going to happen with this movie, Gerald. I think it's going to get drowned out of the conversation in award season. I think maybe you see a couple token nominations for it, but I don't think you're going to see any major love for this. It's not the kind of flashy. If this was a biopic of somebody in that cast or whatever,
sure,
then I could see that, but this isn't that kind of movie, and this kind of movie, I feel like it would be most tailor-made to get that performance love. You know what I mean? Like if it was a biopic about somebody and there were all these big dramatic bits about whatever that they could really play on. It's not that kind of movie, so I think once you see more stuff come down the pipe for award season, I think it gets drowned out. Not to take away from its quality, it is really good, right. But yeah, that's kind of my gut feeling on it when I think about it, like as a movie, you know.
I could see like screenplay. I think Jason Reitman. There's a lot of really cool one takes in this movie too. I'm sure you noticed, but there's several of them.
I really love the way this movie's shot. It's like almost guerrilla style. Like you could tell that camera's right in there, in and amidst all the action. Because again, as I talked about before, there's so much stuff going on, and that camera was constantly whip panning around to all sorts of different characters, all sorts of different elements. It's great. I love the way this is shot. Even
to the point when two people are having a conversation, it does this number where it's like talking and it goes back to the person talking, it goes back to this person. You know, it doesn't cut or whatever. So there's a lot of one takes in this movie, which is obviously intentional. I think the movie starts in like a 2 or 3 minute one take. They're going through the studio and all that. Yeah. So obviously that's not an easy thing to do from a directing standpoint. Everybody has to be on their cue and, you know, all that shit. So that could play into directing love too when it comes to be award season. I think when you get to something like the Screen Actors Guild, which is a lower tier, but like an ensemble cast, I mean, I feel like this could be definitely in the conversation for something like that. I could see that. So many people involved doing such great things. And what's cool about it, too, is that, you know, we're talking about Gabriel LaBelle, Cooper Hoffman, Rachel Sennott, who you and I are both admittedly in love with. Several other actors that I barely even knew, but I know that they've been in things like Corey Michael Smith. You mentioned Lamorne Morris, who was on New Girl. But a lot of young Hollywood actors who are kind of making their name in Hollywood, and performing in a movie like this is interesting to me because that's what these folks were doing in '75 on SNL. Yeah, you know, making a name for themselves. Back then it was comedy and TV, but it's just interesting that it's kind of mirroring, you know, art imitating life in a weird sort of way. So what about the ending of the movie? So we get this, real time, bam, 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 high energy, gets to a point where Willem Dafoe's like decides to go live at the last second because there was this whole thing with Johnny Carson and they might just cut to one of his tape shows. But they decide to go live. And the very end of the movie ends up being the start of SNL. And, you know, I think it's Chevy Chase or somebody comes out and says, live from New York at Saturday night. And then it cuts to the end credits for the movie, but they're done in a way that's like the opening to SNL, which I thought was really cool. I thought that was really cool. It was showing like New York City and like the different actors. One thing that I say that I it's not even a dislike in terms of, I'm not really criticizing the movie, it's more so my experience of it. But, like, when that happened, didn't you want to see the recreation of the skits? Like, I was like, sweet, we're going to see them do these skits on TV because we'd only seen, like, dress rehearsals and kind of stuff going wrong behind the scenes. I don't know. I kind of wanted – I know that it wouldn't have – I don't know. What do you think? Because I kind of wanted to see the recreation of these famous skits that we know from, you know, his TV history. I
didn't – knowing that the film was about the lead up to the first ever, like, the go live – I didn't expect it. So, I mean, it would have been a nice treat to have, like, in the credits or something like that, like, as the credits rolled, for them to do recreations of some of the different things. Like, that would have been fun. It would have been really cool.
They probably filmed a few of them, I would think.
I would imagine so, but this isn't like a disaster artist sort of situation where it's following along with the filming of the whole thing and they're doing recreations as part of the filming of it. Although that's one of my favorite parts of the disaster artist, getting to the end of it and then watching all the scenes side by side.
I know, that's crazy.
The attention to detail was nuts, like how crazy hard they worked to get him.
I think you remember this, but I saw the disaster artist before I saw The Room, so it was really trippy to kind of see it that way. But
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Another disaster artist, another movie on a movie set, by the way. So we'll see see what you say there. All right, so Saturday Night from Jason Reitman. I think it's a recommend from us. It's one of the 3 or 4 movies Nick liked this year. So you got to
it's already in the top 10 of the year by default, folks.
You got to give it a go, yeah. An 8 for me. The high energy, the electric cast, just such a great young cast that really worked well together. The cast is really
great. I don't think you can say enough good things about watching.
Nobody
this
overshadowed
young cast.
Anybody.
Yeah, this young cast of basically a lot of nobodies. I've never heard of almost any of these people in this movie. Like I said, Lamorne Morris, obviously I'd heard of from New Girl, like Rachel Sennott, obviously from Bottoms, and we are just, we stand Rachel Sennott. But I mean, other than that, like for the most part, most of this cast I was not familiar with at all. So I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see, like, I mean, I really love seeing young actors kind of developing their craft as they kind of take roles like these and get into these kinds of things. So it was really, really enjoyable in that way. So yeah, I mean, definite recommend. Even if, like I said, if you're somebody who doesn't generally, and I just generally don't, like I generally just don't care about SNL, like overall. Like I said, there's skits and different things from over the years that I've absolutely adored and watched on repeat like 1,000 times. I watch them on Instagram Reels, like whenever Celebrity Jeopardy comes up, and like you got Burt Reynolds as Turd Ferguson, and Sean Connery being like, good, "I'll take Le Tits now for 100," and
it's
like,
too good.
I love watching that kind of stuff, but I don't care about the show in general. Like I'll never watch a full episode of it. Like I literally never have.
I'll take the rapist for 500. That's therapist. Yeah, that's the best. All right, man, let's transition to our Mount Rushmore segment. Now, we're going to be doing an interesting one this week, Nick, which took a little bit of homework. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to come up with 4 of these things for the Mount Rushmore. Nick's doing his homework right now, but I did mine.
I got to pull up the stupid list you sent me.
So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the 4 movies for the Mount Rushmore. They're going to be called On the Set movies. So Saturday Night is a movie that takes place on a set. It's a movie on a movie set. So this could be, well, we'll see what we pick here. I have a couple in mind. Nick, you want me to follow the rule that since I rated it higher, I go first?
That is the rule that I established, which just means you're going to get to do it every time because you rate everything higher than I. Even if we both like something, you rate everything higher than I do.
What would have I given it a 7? Because that's almost what I gave it. What would we have done then? Flipped a coin or something? I don't know.
Make Dan do it.
Make Dan figure it out. Well, look, speaking of Dan, he was in here earlier. We were chatting, producer Dan, and I pulled up a Reddit. What do you call him? You call him Reddit fucking thread or whatever. I don't know. And I was trying to see ones that maybe I'd forgotten, and there was one on this Reddit thread that I had not thought of.
Reddit thread it.
That's right.
I don't think it's called that. I just like the rhyme.
I'm saying that's right, but I have no idea.
It is. It's right.
I think this belongs on the Mount Rushmore, though. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, which is a bonus. But also, I will tell you why I think it belongs on there. If you want to fight me, then you can fight me. But I'm going to say The Truman Show belongs on the Mount Rushmore on the set movies. What do you think?
I mean, I guess it depends on how close you want to hold to the brief of...
What? The whole thing is on a set. His whole life is a set.
I know the whole thing is on a set, but it's more... I mean, I guess there is the story with Ed Harris and all that stuff about, like, the behind the scenes and, like, the production of it and stuff, but it's more...
What?
It's that
literally is the Truman Show. But here's another reason why I think it belongs on the Mount Rushmore, because I didn't get the year on Truman Show.
Depends
on, 90s,
like I said,
right?
it just depends on how much you want to argue. It's like more about the behind the scenes making of it with like the running around on the set and like versus that thing being a set. Like I get it. It's not a bad. I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I love that movie.
So it came out in 98.
I haven't watched it in a long time though. I gotta watch
Peter
that movie.
Weir directed film, came out in '98. And another reason why I think it belongs on there is because this was right at the bottom of the mountain for like reality TV. And look where we are now, dude. I mean, I dare you to turn on your TV and not find something reality based of some kind on television. And back in the mid to late '90s, it was just becoming a thing. And Truman Show kind of got in on the ground floor with that as a concept of what if this whole guy's life is a reality show and he's the only one that's not in on the shtick, you know what I mean? Not only that, I think it was a robbery that Jim Carrey didn't get nominated for one of his best performances for this.
He's great in it.
Still never been nominated for Academy Award. But yeah, I'm going to say Truman Show unless you're going to make me change it because I have a backup.
Oh, I don't really care.
That's not very nice. All right, well, I'll leave it on there. I'll leave it on there then. I'm glad you don't care.
Number one though is like.
Well, it's my first pick.
I don't know. I feel like there's better representations that could go up there.
Well, now you got to come through, man. Now you got to come through. What's yours?
I mean, and here's the thing: is as soon as I looked at this list, because as soon as you named this as the Mount Rushmore, I immediately thought of one movie that has to be on this Mount Rushmore, no matter what. And it's not even on the list that you sent me.
Oh wow, good.
Yeah, it's not even on the list. It's the absolute seminal classic musical, Singing in the Rain, Gerald.
Yeah, that's my next pick, so I'm glad you picked
Literally,
it. Okay.
like no movie should be on the Mount Rushmore. If this isn't on Mount Rushmore, no other movie ever belongs on the Mount Rushmore of this type of movie.
That was my next pick.
About the transition, of course, we just talked about it with Stu when he was here, when we stole ideas from past Gerald. And, redid the movies from before you were born. It was on my list. I love Singing in the Rain, about that transition from silent movies to talkies. Just absolutely phenomenal film. I mean, it's a masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece.
I'm with you. And it's going to be on the Mount Rushmore because I was going to pick it anyway if you hadn't. So it's definitely on the Mount Rushmore. But it does bring up an interesting conundrum. With Singing in the Rain now on the Mount Rushmore, can we put La La Land also on there?
Why couldn't we?
Or should we spread it around a little bit? Because
if you don't pick it, I'm going to pick it.
So it's going to be on the Rushmore no matter what.
I don't give a shit about no genre, nothing, okay?
Well, we're trying to make encapsulate all the kind of, on the set movies. So we've already got a musical.
No.
All right, let's see. So if I can count on you for La La Land, probably.
Oh, you can.
Right?
I'm interested to see what you're going to put here in its place, though.
Well, I want to kind of talk about this together because I'm kind of struggling here a little bit.
I mean, you could
put. Well, here, let me throw these two at you.
Oh
and
God!
Let's talk about these two. Let's talk about these two, okay?
Looney Tunes.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, no.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Emphatically
Tarantino.
no.
Hold on.
Nope.
It can't be. I'm not saying is that your favorite one, okay?
They don't even belong on the Rushmore.
And what was the other one I was thinking of? Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit that's way higher in my, like 10 times belongs on this list before Once Upon a Time in Hollywood gets anywhere near it.
I'm okay with that. Yeah. Nightcrawler 2 is a dark horse because Nightcrawler, there's a lot of journalism and newsrooms. So I don't know could you say on the set movie for Nightcrawler? That would be a dark horse, a wild card pick.
On the set? What set?
I mean, the news set. I mean, the newsroom, and he's like a photojournalist. So he's kind of, I don't know. I love that movie. But
I mean, well, I love it too. It's a really, really good movie. But then I think then it's like, well, do we throw Anchorman in here because Ron Burgundy's a news anchor?
Hey, you might be onto something. All right, you know what? Anchorman.
I don't even want Anchorman on here. I'm just saying.
Hold on.
I'm just saying.
All right, let's back up here. So what we got? We got the Truman Show. We got Singing in the Rain, and I'm going to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Okay.
Yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Who Framed Roger Rabbit? I really, really love. I'm looking through the rest of this list of these, and again, this is not this Wikipedia list that Gerald sent me is not like a complete list of them or anything.
No, not at all.
You know what I thought would be an interesting honorable? You know what I would put in here over the Truman Show? I'd put the Fall Guy in there over the Truman Show. To be honest with you.
My wife said that, but she's a Gosling stan. She wants to marry that guy, I can't.
It's also a really good movie, and it's 100% fits the brief. But no, La La Land's got to be part of this list. La La Land has to be part of this list.
All right, so that's what we're doing then. So let's repeat them. What do we do? We did Singing in the Rain, The Truman Show, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and La La Land. Those are our 4 on the set movies for our Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
You feeling good? I feel good. I mean, I know you're giving me shit about The Truman Show, but that's a goddamn stone cold classic. The whole goddamn movie's on a set. His whole life is a set.
I'm not arguing about whether it for me, it's more like when I think of this brief, and like I said, it just
what would you
on,
replace Truman Show with?
Just depends on how you want to argue the minutia of the brief, I guess is my point.
Okay.
Because when I think of on the set movies, I think more of there's a camera behind the camera crew, and then you're watching them shoot the thing and like cut and like all the different in between stuff and like all that kind of different stuff.
That's fair, but they do have a lot of the what do you call it, like control room scenes with
they
Ed
do.
Harris
Like I
on
said, you have the whole Ed Harris of it all and all that kind of stuff. I know that stuff's part of it. Like I said, I don't think Truman Show is even a bad movie. It just the way I interpreted the brief, it's not as it doesn't fit as much as a different movie would maybe necessarily. But I'm not gonna argue about putting it in there either.
Also want to give mad love to Babylon, a movie that I'm in love with. It came out a couple years ago that I wanted to put on here, but that would be a definite bias because that's a very split movie. So at least the 4 movies that we chose are pretty universally beloved. So, we won't get too much hate mail, I don't guess. So that's our Mount Rushmore of on the set movies this week. Now we'll have to get creative with our Mount Rushmore the next couple weeks because I don't know either one of these movies that got picked for us, Nick, but I'm kind of excited about that. What were they called again? What was I thinking when I did something? Or Producer Dan, are you in the chat? What are the movies again? Lose and
Luz and some Brad movie.
A Brad movie that more people, although I bet more people saw this one than Horizon. So
I'm surprised Brad didn't put like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey or some nonsense on there.
I know, yeah. Well, it was Lose and goddamn, I can't remember. Things Will Be Different.
Because it doesn't
Producer
even
Dan.
sound like a horror movie.
Things Will Be Different. So, Nick, let's cover Things Will Be Different next week. I'm going to have to kind of... I'll get with Brad. How about that? I'll get with Brad directly, and I'll figure out what kind of Mount Rushmore we should do for this movie, and then we'll figure something out for that for next week.
Mount Rushmore of horror movies that don't sound like they're horror movies.
Mount Rushmore of Brad Fest headliners.
Oh, good Lord.
Okay. So here we go. Things Will Be Different will be the first of our 2 Halloween horror-themed reviews next week. Nick, thanks for talking about Saturday Night with me, man. You're looking like a movie star over there yourself, buddy. Are you on the set right now? By the way, what did you incorporate to the backdrop for Saturday night? Nothing? Oh, the applause sign. All right, very subtle. Very subtle.
I'm running out of space back here because I can't use, like, I have my bookshelf over here, so I can't use, like, a third of the image because you won't see it anyway because of the way my office is just really weird and, like, all this other stuff. So I'm running out of real estate here, so I'm like, all right, I better put something. I almost grabbed Matt Foley and just had Matt Foley, like, off to the side yelling at you.
Yeah,
that would have been good, too, but I didn't.
Well, a professional will figure it out, so I have faith in you. All right, buddy. Thanks to the work of Producer Dan on this episode and all episodes, and thanks to you, Nick, for joining me. And we'll get together next week, and we'll talk
Thanks,
about
everybody.
Things Are Different, or what is it called? Things Will Be Different. We'll talk about that.
We're gonna watch a completely different movie and be like, oh wait, what was it called again?
Oh my God, Things Will Be Different from 2024, a new horror movie. We're going to talk about that next week. Until then, guys, everybody take care. We will see you then. Happy spooky season out there, everyone. Oh my God, he's dying. I'm gonna end the stream. He's dying. I don't want to catch this on camera.